Welcome back to Jurassic Park Minute. Jurassic Park Minute is the fan podcast that chronicles and overanalyzes the classic 1993 film Jurassic Park minute by minute. I'm Kyle.
I'm Brady.
And today we're here to bring you minute number 24, Jurassic Park. Brady, how are you doing today?
Doing good. This is an interesting, we're leading into an interesting sequence. Minute number 1 is kind of the slower portion of, or minute 24 is kind of the slower portion of a really interesting sequence where the entire conceit of the movie is explained to us.
I'm glad we're going into a weekend here where we can actually do some studying on this stuff, because I think I'm sorely prepared today to talk about the hard science of DNA and cloning and things like that. But yeah, you're right. This is getting into some really cool science-related stuff here. But in this minute, we're actually kind of covering something that you and I are a bit of experts in, and that's theme parks.
There you go.
And we're actually going to be boarding the first theme park ride in Jurassic Park. So we'll have a little bit of discussion about different Jurassic Park theme parks. But before that, you want to go ahead and do the breakdown for minute number 24?
Let's do it.
In the previous scene, we saw the group of visitors arrive at the Jurassic Park Visitor Center. At minute number 24, Hammond, Malcolm, Grant, Ellie, and Gennaro make their way up a staircase. At 27:08, we are led into a theater with tiered seating. John Hammond asks everyone to take a seat. At 24:13, John says, "Oh, here he comes. Oh, here I come." Hammond appears on the projection screen. At 24:21, the on-screen Hammond says, "Hello." Real-life Hammond tells everyone to say hello in response. Only Ellie does. Malcolm waves half-heartedly at the screen. At 24:26, the on-screen Hammond says, "Hello, John." Real-life Hammond remembers that he has some lines and fumbles for some cards. The on-screen Hammond says, Fine, I guess, but how did I get here?" At 24:36, real-life Hammond tells on-screen Hammond that he can show him, but first he will need a drop of his blood. On-screen Hammond reaches out with his finger, and real-life Hammond acts like he is pricking it. At 24:42, on-screen Hammond pulls his finger back and says, "John, that hurt." At 24:45, we cut to a shot of Grant and Ellie watching the presentation. Ellie giggles at what she is seeing. John says to relax and that it's all part of the miracle of cloning. At 24:50, we cut back to a shot of the screen where multiple versions of John Hammond are now appearing and all introducing themselves to each other. Grant asks, "DNA from what? Loy extractions never recreated intact DNA." Malcolm adds that there would be big sequence gaps. Ellie asks again, "Paleo DNA, but from what source?" And thus ends minute number 24, Jurassic Park. Yeah, so they're basically on the only, well, I guess maybe one of two rides that you see in Jurassic Park. We see this ride, and then we see the kind of zoological tour that they take in a little bit. But yeah, this is the first actual, like, literal ride we get in Jurassic Park, and it reminds me a lot of the dinosaur ride at Disney's Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
You know, kind of how it opens here. Now, we do get, it's a crude description of the DNA cloning process is what we get here at the very beginning. But you go ahead.
Oh, well, you know what it reminds me of? Well, first off, like, okay, so you get your little pre-show. That's a projection, a movie, and like in every theme park ride now, you've got to have some sort of room where the riders are going to go into, and there's like TV monitors or screen or something like that, and some actor is going to show up, like Ellen DeGeneres will show up and explain, the purpose of the ride. But you didn't really see that, as far as I know, back about 20 some odd years ago, whenever the movie came out. So it's almost like they were seeing ahead. But this rotating theater, the show ride or whatever, really reminds me of the Land in Epcot at Disney World, because you're going by something and actually seeing the scientists at work, and in the Land you go by and you see the farmers, basically.
So the Land is a ride in Epcot Center, in the Land Pavilion, where you're seeing different examples of how food grows, of how crops grow, and things like that. But at the last portion of that, the last sequence is you go through and see actually a bunch of scientists who work at Epcot developing new ways of growing plants, right?
Yeah.
Catfish farms, things like that. How food is produced. It's a very educational ride.
It's a really cool ride.
Yeah, I like it. I always try to ride it when I can. But yeah, this is a lot like that. It also kind of reminds me, the setup reminds me of Carousel of Progress, which is a rotating ride, because this one actually does rotate. The lap bars come down. We see safety precautions being put in place. John Hammond's not a huge fan of that.
It seems like safety precautions on attractions in this park are pretty easily broken.
They are.
When they break the lap bars and then, whatever. The other thing
that's why he built in Costa Rica, not Orlando, because it's a lot easier to bribe the insurance underwriters down there, so that they can come in and be like, "Oh, this is fine. We can." It doesn't matter if a child's mauled by a dinosaur in this ride. We can easily pay the family off. But those come down in the next scene, and they'll see everybody doing their work here. But in this sequence in particular, we see the John Hammond come out on screen as well, and then he's going to do a little cloning thing. Here's my question. is John Hammond going to be there for every group of guests that come into the
Okay.
park? For this ride to work, the projection of him back there, he's going to have to stand in front of every audience and get it and prick the finger of
Yeah.
the guy on screen. Am I wrong to say that this is just kind of a foolish screenwriter's idea of what an amusement park ride is like, or should I be reading further into it by saying that John Hammond fully hasn't planned much out here?
Okay. Well, first off, John Hammond has not clearly planned much
Right.
of anything, or not done it very well. The two ways to answer that would one be like this is a very, very, very special VIP tour that you get.
Okay.
And where he's going to be there every time, or that's the only explanation I can.
Well,
come
we
up
kind of
with.
have a schism between the two John Hammonds. The John Hammond in the book is a money-grubbing
Yeah.
guy who wants to make as much money as possible. So for him, he would have almost like we see in Westworld now, where I think the price for that's something like $40,000 a day to go to Westworld.
Jesus.
He is expecting people to pay top dollar to come to do this, so he can really give them a show by being the CEO of the company, being there for every individual person that gets on this ride, right? But in Jurassic Park, the movie, he says explicitly that he did not want it to cater just to the super rich.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we kind of have a version of John Hammond, which maybe might have been from a previous draft, or trying to stick to close to what's supposed to be in the book, as opposed to the John Hammond which we actually see on screen. Now, bear with me real quick. Is the Jurassic Park franchise maybe one that has trouble dealing with different versions of a script crammed into one movie?
It is coming from different drafts.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this was just kind of an artifact from a previous screenplay, or was it just something they figured audiences wouldn't notice?
Probably audience wouldn't notice.
Yeah, I think
that,
so.
That's what I think.
Yeah. But it's a cute little scene with John, with Richard Attenborough coming up on screen behind him and then pricking his finger. Yeah.
I think it was a good idea too no one really can relate to the zoological tour that they go on.
Right.
There's not really a whole lot like that unless you're talking about some Jeep tour at a zoo or something like that. So I think it's important that they do drop in different recognizable theme park elements that movie-going audiences are going to say, like, oh, that's like this thing I did at Disney World. To kind of either remind them that, yes, you're in a theme park, and also just, I don't know, have some accessibility for the audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So let's talk a little bit about Jurassic Park at Islands of Adventure in Universal Studios.
Yes.
The Jurassic Park ride there is like a splash type ride, right? That really gets you soaked.
Yeah.
And it was a cold day when we went.
ooh,
And we were not about to do that. So,
no.
But that ride is not very good.
No. And, hey, to each his own and everything. And like as a Jurassic Park buff, I love going on it and seeing some of the stuff, but it's just, in my opinion, it's not great.
I'm kind of hoping that with The Lost World making damn near $2 billion at the box office. Jurassic World, excuse me. And then I'm sure the next film's going to do very well as well. They would put the money into actually making a proper Jurassic Park theme park, because I always thought just having one ride based on Jurassic Park was not a whole lot. And then it had that other ride, the pterodactyl thing that I don't think adults can ride. It's like this, we wouldn't have gone on it, because when you get up to the front of the line, they're like, oh no, I'm sorry, this is just for preteens and children, because it's like a roller coaster. It's almost like an overhead roller coaster ride where pterodactyls are like, they have you in a basket or whatever. It's not very good.
Weird.
It's not very good.
Yeah, and you would think the success of a movie about theme parks would have, and like Universal's just golden child, you think that they would have cashed in on that and given it a bigger presence, or at least updated it.
Jurassic Park, it was their Star Wars for a while.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those properties that Steven Spielberg kind of had like first hand. He had to prove what was going to happen on it, that the studio wasn't able to take full advantage of it outside of Steven Spielberg.
He did write the ride.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Universal was like going to close down back a little bit before Jurassic World came out, and they were going to do a bunch of renovations. And I remember thinking like, oh, hell yes, they're about to just do a complete revamp of the Jurassic Park area, or they're going to make it Jurassic World. But no, nothing. And it's so surprising after the success, the third highest grossing film of all time, they didn't really...
Well, what they're probably doing is waiting to see how audiences would react to the movie. Because right now, Universal's Islands of Adventure is... the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is a machine that prints money, two machines, if you will, that print money all day long.
Yep.
So right now, probably what they have is, they only have so much land, and they got to see, like, well, what are people coming here for?
That's a
and
good
how
point.
much are we selling butter beer?
Now, they did include the raptor one-on-one experience or
Oh
something
yeah,
like
that's
that.
right.
Yeah.
They did add that. You are correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a guy in a raptor suit that comes out, and but it's a very convincing raptor suit, I think, and you can get your picture taken with it. So, but just before we recorded this episode, I just pulled up YouTube on my phone just to see what was going on, and Inside the Magic, which is a podcast that kind of covers theme parks, did have footage today of IAAPA, which is the amusement park kind of technology conference that people who are buyers for rides at amusement parks,
That sounds awesome.
especially in China, go to, and they get to see new rides tested out, new technologies tested out. So you and
Yeah.
I were looking at a company, I cannot remember the name. It was a Chinese company that had developed some new dinosaur animatronics, and they looked great. They looked fantastic.
Yeah.
So what these were probably are, China is a market that is booming for theme parks right now. So these are probably being developed for American investors to put some money into to open it up in China. But I think the stuff was looking pretty cool. I think that the future of dinosaurs in theme parks might look pretty bright. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this minute. How about you?
No, that's about it. We're entering into the whole science element of how this stuff works.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
breakdown of how they clone DNA and fill in the gene sequence gaps, and let's keep moving.
Well, as we are sending this episode out, it is the final episode of our other podcast, Ghostbusters Minute. We are
Yep.
wrapping that up today, so I'm sad to see that show go, but I'm glad to have a little bit more time to get into the science stuff of Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's cool that. Actually, it's not cool that Ghostbusters Minute's ending. I'm really going to miss it. But it's good that it's ending at this moment in Jurassic Park Minute because
Yeah.
we're about to get into some stuff that we're going to need a lot of time
Right.
to research. And this is going to open up that time. So, yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have some paleontologist guests on the show here pretty soon to talk about dinosaurs and what you and I have misrepresented and
Yeah,
the science
exactly.
aspect of everything that we're not getting right. So, but I'm glad. I want somebody to come on and be like, no, you were wrong about this, and this is why, and just to educate us. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
awesome. All right, folks. So everybody out there, have a great weekend. We got a lot more Jurassic Park content coming up in the next few weeks. Really hope you've enjoyed what you've heard on the show so far because we really plan to kind of amp it up from this point out. So, all right, guys. Well, I am Kyle.
I'm Brady.
And we're here to tell you, until next time, hold on to your butts.
Jurassic Park Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the podcast, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can contact us at JurassicParkMinute@gmail.com and visit us online at JurassicParkMinute.com, Facebook.com/JurassicParkMinute, and Twitter.com/JurassicMinute.